A few weeks back, I started a series on the new remote ID regulations. So today I'm going to continue with that series, and today we're going to talk about how to comply with remote ID. Hello and welcome to LegalDrone, where we talk about drones and other tech stuff. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. Before we begin, as always, this is not legal advice. So in my first remote ID video, I told you that these videos were going to be short videos on remote ID, and I'm trying to digest all the regulations. But that video took a really long time to make, and I thought of dividing the video in two, but that's in the past. So right now I'm doing this video, and I really going to try to give you this in the least amount of time that I can. I also have a timer so I can look up at the timer and not extend myself too much. So let's get right into the video. So in today's video, I want to talk to you about how to comply with remote ID. The remote ID regulations state that drones have to be able to transmit or broadcast a series of information such as drone location, flight speed, all those things at the moment of takeoff. So how can you comply with that? So if you have an older drone, to be clear, drones right now don't comply with remote ID, and they won't comply with the built-in requirement of remote ID. The regulation says that in order to comply, the drone has to be able to do that internally. So the drone manufacturers have to get the remote ID capabilities built in the drone. So right now, not even one drone complies with that requirement. Drone manufacturers have until 2022 to comply with that, and drone users have until 2023 to comply with the remote ID requirements. So I'm making this video at early 2021. I don't know if this video is going to come out in January or in February, but either way, it's early 2021. So there is a lot of time until you have to comply, but I know people are getting a little bit frustrated because they bought a drone in Christmas, and then after Christmas the regulations came out. So there were a lot of people trying to clickbait with a headline that says that you won't be able to fly your drone in 2023, and that is a lie, okay? Because there are a few ways that manufacturers can help you comply with remote ID. So at 2023 you will be able to comply with remote ID, and you most certainly will want to, because with remote ID you will be possibly able to fly at night, fly beyond the visual line of sight, fly over people. So you will need remote ID to do those things, probably before the 2023 deadline for users. So the first way that a drone can comply with remote ID right now is going to be with a software update or firmware update. DJI is constantly improving their drones, and they are updating the firmware of the drone and the remote, and also the battery. So I think that DJI will comply with, or at least will help you comply with a firmware update. You just have to wait until that firmware update comes out. And I think the other drone manufacturers are going to do the same, because they want their drones to still in the airspace, okay? They don't want you to get angry with them because you bought a drone in December 2020 and you won't be able to do the things that people that buy a drone next year will be able to do in terms of regulations, like flying over people, flying at night, and maybe flying beyond the visual line of sight. So that's the first way to comply. So the second way to comply is going to be with a broadcast module. Manufacturers are going to start developing these broadcast modules that you can attach to your drone, and you will be able to transmit all the information required as part of the remote ID regulation. And this one is right down the regulations. They say that manufacturers can do this with a software update, so that the broadcast module can be the software update or the firmware update. So that is, I think, the way that most manufacturers are gonna go. But if your manufacturer don't do that, you might need to buy something else. Also, this is for people that are doing, for example, building their own drones. Of course, if you build your own drone, you will not be able to have a built-in option of remote ID. So you will need to buy a broadcast module to fly in compliance with remote ID, because the other way to fly without any broadcast module or without any firmware update is going to be in some specific places that are going to be open for people that don't want to use or don't want to register with remote ID. So when it comes to remote ID, you will most certainly be able to use your drone when it rolls out. And so don't worry, so people doing these type of headlines as clickbait are not doing a very great service to the drone community. But I think you will be able to comply with remote ID with your actual drone, with the broadcast module feature, whether it's a software update or an actual piece of equipment that you put on your drone, you will be able to do it. So thank you for watching this video. If you really like it, hit that like button, hit that subscribe, click on and turn on the notification bell. If you want to see more drone law videos, I have a playlist here, and also I am putting up this series on remote ID. So if you want to watch other videos on remote ID, you can click here. So thank you for watching again, and see you next time.